This is the goal, the Colorado River. This video is titled Older Hiker, Rim to River to Rim. The hike will be on Bright Angel Trail. From the trailview viewpoint, you can see more than half the length of the trail, about 5 miles, and get a sense of what you're getting into. The complete trail stretches about 8.1 miles to the river, with a descent of 4,460 feet, a drop of a bit less than a mile. The trail is well maintained, with moderate step downs and conveniently located rest stops. There are 4 rest houses with composting toilets along the 8-mile hike to the river, as well as 3 stops with treated water, although only 1 water stop is open in the winter. But that's not to minimize the effort, experience, and planning necessary to complete the hike successfully. About 1 person a month dies at Grand Canyon, and this summer there were 4 deaths in a 30-day period, all from weather-related problems. Countless people make this hike every day, but it does take some preparation and effort, and it does not mean it's risk-free, especially for older hikers. There are plenty of trail guides to Bright Angel, including one of my first videos more than a year ago, which, although the production quality is bad, has useful content. However, there are not too many videos that focus on the perspective of the older hiker, so that will be my emphasis here. I always say the secret weapon of the older hiker is the early start. Today, I hope to be on the trail by 2 a.m. Current temperature is 55 degrees, the highest predicted to be about 100 or 38 C. To stay safe in the heat, it's important for me to be out of the deep canyon as early as possible, and the early start makes that possible. I also enjoy the solitude of the trail in the early morning, seeing the sunrise, plus the hikers you meet in the dark on the trail seem to have more interesting stories than the ones you meet in the daytime. Anyway, nothing worth doing is ever easy. I've been doing this hike about once a month for a decade now. You can do the math. I started in my mid-50s, now in my mid-60s, I can see the effects of aging. When I started, I did quite a bit of trail running. I enjoyed hot weather hikes and did relatively well on them. About 5 years ago, I started using poles for safety from falls. That slows me down. Plus, over the past 2 years, I've been more affected by the heat. On my most recent summer hike, it was admittedly 107 degrees, but I really had to slow down. It seemed that every 5 steps I needed to take a break. I guess that's the process of aging. So on this hike, my goal is to get out of the deep canyon before the extreme heat sets in. That's an accommodation of the aging process. You don't necessarily need to stop your favorite activities as you age, but sometimes you need to modify your approach. Just north of Havasupai Garden, it's first light. There had been a big rainstorm, so there are a lot of loose rocks on the trail, which makes for slow going in the dark. But hikers have said that it was 108 yesterday in the deep canyon, so the early start should pay off. A beautiful sight. With dawn coming, you can see Zoroaster Temple and the smoke from the California wildfires. Unfortunately, the canyon is pretty darn smoky today. When you reach the end of the Devil's Corkscrew, you hit Pipe Creek. Dry now in the late summer, but usually runs in the spring. You might assume that Pipe Creek got its name from the pipes carrying water from Roaring Springs to the South Rim. But those pipes were only installed in 1965, and the name of this creek far predates them. In fact, it wasn't named after water pipes, it was named after a smoking pipe. In 1894, Ralph Cameron, traveling across the Tonto Plateau to a mining claim, found a meerschaum smoking pipe someone had dropped near the headwaters of Pipe Creek. He scratched a date 100 years earlier on the pipe, and he left it in an obvious place on the trail. Others marveled at how early the trail was traveled until Cameron revealed it was a joke. But the name Pipe Creek stuck, and it's been named so since the 1800s, completely unrelated to the water pipes that later traversed the creek. The hike from the bottom of the Devil's Corkscrew to the Colorado River used to be one of the most boring and frustrating portions of the hike. The stream crossing meditations that I do on this portion of the hike sprang from a joke, and that joke goes like this. A young fellow sees a bunch of old guys having coffee, and one of them says, 37, and everybody laughs. Another says, 42, and they laugh again. The young guy asks, why? The old fellow explains, we've been telling the same joke so long that now we just give them numbers. The young guy says, let me try. 7, and everybody just stares at him. He says, 7, isn't that a funny joke? The old guy says, yeah, sure, but someone told that one yesterday. Anyway, with time, I found myself repeating some of my favorite sayings over and over again, and like the joke, I thought I'd assign them numbers. And the 30 minutes or so from the Devil's Corkscrew to the river involves 5 river crossings, so I assigned each one a saying or a meditation. And over time, each meditation has evolved into a number of variations, most of which I won't bore you with today. But like the card games when you were a kid, it made the most boring part of the hike pass quickly. And in fact, when the trail is closed and I'm unable to make my regular hikes, I miss the opportunity to do these meditations. Also, it makes a good test of your mental acuity. If you can't remember the meditations here halfway through the hike, it indicates that I need some food and a bit of rest in the shade. Anyway, here they are. There are 5 stream crossings between the bottom of the Devil's Corkscrew and the river, but I had to adopt an underlying philosophy or an underlying meditation to go with all of them, and that is 0, all life ends. Of course, that's modified with something you say, especially on a hike, all life ends, but hopefully not today. The first stream crossing meditation, it's a dry stream right now, is number 1, health is the most important thing in the world. And of course, a variation on that I use while hiking, safety is a healthcare issue. Hence these poles, they help keep me safe. And finally, you got to take care of what you have, be that your health or your house or car. You got to take care of what you have. Health is number 1. 2, living well's the best revenge. Anybody who's lived a certain number of years has things to be resentful about, grievances, things to be angry about. But getting even never accomplishes anything. To me, the best thing to do is to live a good life. Be healthy, be happy, engage in activities you like. Go for a hike. Living well is the best revenge. The third stream crossing, another dry one at the end of the summer now. It is attitude is everything. The attitude you have affects how things go for you. And a subcategory of that is be a better man, a real challenge for me. Sometimes there are people who annoy you, people who you may not like, and I always strive to treat everyone with the respect they deserve. I often remind myself, be a better man. One of the landmarks before you reach the 4th stream crossing is this bird-like figure I call the phoenix. Imagine the pressure and heat that cause that solid rock to melt and bend like that. Incredible geological forces going on here. 4, there's no substitute for experience. I use this one a lot while I'm hiking. Some of the subcategories of this are go with what you know. Don't try new equipment on a hike. Use things that are tried and true, foods, and so forth. Another one is, when in doubt, take the conservative route. Often you make a choice between a long hike and a short hike. And when I come to that fork in the road, I tell myself, when in doubt, take the conservative route. As an older hiker, safety is the primary factor. You want to have a good time, but you also don't want to damage yourself on the hike. No substitute for experience. 5, and this is the final stream crossing. You're just a minute or two away from the Colorado River. 5, live now. Life is short and fragile. You never know what tomorrow will bring. The right time to do things is right now. 5, live now. And we're at the river. It's amazing how a series of short meditations make the most boring part of the hike go quickly and actually become one of the most enjoyable. It's 7:30 in the morning, 79 degrees. The sun is just hitting the Colorado River, and we've reached our goal. Been a little bit slow making videos. That takes 30 minutes to an hour more than usual, but we've reached the goal. Do a little videotaping at the river, have a quick lunch in the river rest house, and head on back. This is the goal, the Colorado River. It's 7:30 in the morning and 78 degrees. There's time for a quick lunch in the River Rest House, built by the Civilian Conservation Corps in 1935, and then another 8 miles of trail to climb, almost a mile back up to the rim. The challenge on this late summer day is the heat. Several hikers have said it was 108 degrees yesterday in the canyon, and we can expect today to be about the same. The early start should help me to avoid the heat of the day, but I can't dilly-dally. Time to eat lunch and head for the top. Great hike so far. This is Pipe Creek Beach. Until 1936, when the CCC completed River Trail, Bright Angel Trail terminated here at Pipe Creek Beach. And to get to Phantom Ranch, you had to loop over the Tonto Trail to what is now the South Kaibab Trail. It's about 8:45 in the morning, 80 degrees. The sun is not yet on the Devil's Corkscrew, but it will be soon. The early start is working to our advantage on this hike. Everyone talks about avoiding the sun in an area called the box on a rim to rim. And I think it's just as important to avoid full sun on the Devil's Corkscrew on a rim to river, if you can avoid it. Of course, in the winter, you welcome the sun. It's 9 a.m., 90 degrees, and in the sun, climbing the Devil's Corkscrew is a bit of a chore. I did want to comment a little bit about aging. It seems to me the most common approach to aging is denial. Don't let the old man in and all that stuff. But I don't see much utility in this approach. No matter how strong you are, how smart you are, how good looking you are, or how rich you are, you will die. To me, accepting this is not depressing, it's empowering. It inspires me to try to optimize health, to seek opportunities for adventure, and to try to make the best of each day. This hike is an example of that. It's only 10 days before the start of autumn. The colors have only started to tinge the cottonwoods. Hopefully, with luck, I'll be back to see them in their full fall foliage. Grand Canyon is a wonderful place to hike. Every season, every day is different. The Park Service uses my friend Ralph here to remind you that you should never hike rim to rim in a day. Despite that, many people do it, but there is effort and risk involved. There was a time this summer during a 30-day period when 4 people died at the park from weather-related illnesses. On this hike, there's a young guy in his 20s who was luckily with a bunch of friends who was incapacitated on the Devil's Corkscrew. The rangers are going down to help him. On my prior hike in the pre-dawn hours, there was a woman in her 40s laid out in the middle of the trail getting emergency medical services. Understand that it takes some preparation and it involves some risk. As for me, I accept the risk. I've told my friends and family that if I die on the trail, I die a happy man. Certainly not my goal. My hope is to be back here to see the cottonwoods in full fall foliage and to have many more hikes at the Grand Canyon. But the Park Service is right. There's risk in hiking rim to rim, and to be safest, you shouldn't take that risk. We've just left Havasupai Gardens. For more than 100 years, it was known as Indian Garden, singular. They changed the name recently to Havasupai, and they made gardens plural. So all that training to call it Indian Garden has been lost, and I now must retrain myself to say Havasupai Gardens. As we're leaving the gardens, it's 10:30 in the morning, about 90 degrees in the shade. The trail to the top goes up the earthquake fault to the rim, about 4.5 miles. There's a breeze today, which means hopefully the heat will not be too much, but it's going to be a very hot hike. And at this time of day, the little bit of shade that exists still on the trail will disappear and it will be in full sun all the way up. Nonetheless, that's the challenge you take when you hike rim to rim on this trail in the summer months. In the winter, it ices over, and unfortunately it never gets hit by sun. So it's icy and snowy all day long. But in the summer, it's full sun most of the day. Beautiful day for a hike. These ham and cheese rolls have become a very good snack. Some slow burning calories without a whole lot of carbs. 1.5 mile rest house, usually it's full of people. For some reason today it's empty. It's nice and cool. Temperatures have been running about 90 degrees, but good progress and should be done before too long. Very pleasant view from here. Reaching tunnel number 2 means there's only about 3/4 of a mile left to the trailhead. One might ask if I get tired doing this hike repeatedly. Not me. Even if the canyon never changed, it would be magnificent. But there's the change of the weather, the change of the seasons, and even the changes in me, the hiker. There are always new people to meet, new stories to hear, and new situations to experience. Hiking rim to rim on Bright Angel Trail at Grand Canyon is my favorite hike. It gives me a break from my routine, and I believe it contributes to both my physical and mental health. Today's hike was successful and enjoyable, and with luck, I'll be doing it again before too long.